Hi, it's Jenny Griggs, the Grants Manager for the Greater Manchester Environment Fund. If you get the Google search engine, input Greater Manchester Environment Fund and here we come. So we're going to go to how to apply, our funders, Recycle for Greater Manchester Fund. And here we come up, Recycle for Greater Manchester funded by Suez. You'll find lots of useful information on this web page, especially the key dates. So here is section 1, all your details, and we're going to go through a sort of fictitious example, Joe Bloggs Upcycling for Wellbeing. The key thing is that it needs to be a not-for-profit organisation or an educational establishment, and you can put your details in there. This point here is asking whether really you're going for the 10k district award or the Greater Manchester wide award. So the district awards are 10k, the Greater Manchester 20k. Greater Manchester wide does not include Wigan because Wigan has its own waste arrangements. Then on to section 2, which is about which priority waste materials are you targeting. So it's valuable to know the difference between reuse, recycle and waste prevention here. So reuse, an example may be furniture. So basically we might reupholster a seat cover and then that piece of furniture could then be gone on and reused. Recycle tends to mean that it's reformed into a different kind of form. So for example, might collect glass and then send that to a recycler. In both cases we'll be able to do waste prevention, and we could do this through some form of education. So for example, with the furniture we might teach upcycling skills. And also all these activities will result in more sustainable use. Before we go any further into the application form, it's quite useful to look at the guidance and particularly around the weighting. So essentially, if your application goes to the grants panel, these are the factors that they will take into account, and it adds up to 100%. So weight is really important for the prevention, reuse or recycling. However, we won't be pitching furniture against, say for example, a project that's recycling batteries. So it'll be sort of within the category that you operate. Also, education is quite highly weighted, so we want to see behavioural change, and then we'll go through the other categories which have a sort of lower weighting as we go through. So back to the sort of main question about the project itself. So my advice would be try and use bullet points. Use of capitals is quite useful as well, and spaces, so it's really obvious what you're doing. What's really hard sometimes is just pages and pages of prose. It's really hard to read the paragraphs. What we want is the grant panel to be able to sort of scan this application and sort of get to the valuable information straight away. So firstly, how long will the project run? It needs to operate within these 2 dates, which is 1st of August 21 to the 30th of September 22. We don't want to run projects right to the bitter end because we need to give time for monitoring, collation and evaluation as well. So that's really important that you factor that in to your process when you're putting your application together. And then the type of prevention, reuse or recycling you're going to do. So in our example, furniture is going to be reused, glass is going to be recycled, and waste prevention is going to be around upskilling. It's also worth mentioning that you could mention contaminants in here as well, but I will go on to discuss those more in the wider environmental aspects. What's really key about this application is a focus on calculations. So if we go back to the guidance, we will see that on page 11 of the guidance are some examples of how much things, everyday household items weigh, which you might find really useful for when you're making your best guess estimates of what you can recycle through your organisation as part of this project. So when you're doing this, it's really important. So here we've got a very sort of this is a low example, just really so you can see the maths. So we're expecting to recycle 2 armchairs and 1 bed case. So we need to have the total weight. This is really valuable information again for the grants team. And finally, there's a question about social value. It's worth saying there's also a question about social value later in the application at 3F. So here, just put a little brief summary. So an example that I've got with the Joe Bloggs Upcycling for Wellbeing is enabling volunteers to learn new skills in upcycling and products to sell to low-income families across the area. That might be an example. You don't need to go into masses of detail, basically a summary of the social benefits. On to section 3B, educational activities. So this is a 20% weighting within the application form. So it's quite really important that we sort of see how you're engaging and how you're helping behavioural changes. So examples you might use as in-person workshops. So with the Joe Bloggs Upcycling for Wellbeing, that might be that you come to a session to learn upcycling skills, or it might be even that a volunteer is given a project over a period of time. Zoom workshops can be incredibly valuable for teaching new skills, and also reach audiences that perhaps you can't reach in the daytime, people at work, that kind of thing. Then it might be in-person workshops going into schools, community centres, even institutions. If you've got a broader remit around behaviour change, you might be thinking about making a film, and also just going down the traditional media route, things like newspapers, radio, television. And posters in public spaces are really important, so that might be the community centre where most people will engage with the project, or even the local chippy, anywhere that really sort of raises awareness about your project. And finally, social media. And social media can be an incredibly powerful tool for reaching people that you wouldn't ordinarily reach. And Facebook is probably the easiest way to reach the general public. Twitter is good if you want to speak to like-minded organisations. Instagram tends to be favoured by younger people. YouTube is a good place to store films, but also, is again a good way to network. Eventbrite is a good way. It's linked with an algorithm to Facebook, so with the use of hashtags, you'll probably get more people to attend free events. And finally, LinkedIn is a good way to communicate with other organisations and professionals. On to section 3C, community and stakeholder engagement, and this is about direct engagement. So we're not talking about social media engagement, we're talking about the actual sort of engagement of people and gaining some level of tangible benefit. So the techniques we might use are sort of awareness raising events, informal training, formal training workshops. You might be collecting furniture, it might be running a store, it might be doing formal skills training. What's really important is we want to see some calculations of how you're going to directly engage. So in this example of Joe Bloggs Upcycling for Wellbeing, we've got 12 workshops in upcycling with 10 people attending each. And then we've got 10 families receiving this furniture at an average 4 per family. Again, for the grants panel, it's really valuable to see the totals as well, so that we can just basically glance at that and see what's obvious and how many people are going to directly engage. On to section 3D, volunteering, training or employment opportunities. Again, calculations based, we want to see how many volunteer hours. So in this example, it's going to be 10 volunteers doing 5 hours each week at 48 weeks of the project. And that will come to 24,000. The other way to measure sort of journeys of volunteers, not only the hours that they clock up, but the skills and certificates they might gain. So for example, 4 volunteers in the upcycling scenario went on to gain their first aid qualifications, and 2 volunteers gained an AQA unit award in customer service. AQA unit awards are sort of really valuable ways to sort of accredit units of work. And finally, stories of people moving from worklessness and unemployment into employment, it's always incredibly powerful. So in the example of the Joe Bloggs, there's one person who is NEET, that's not in education or educational training, has moved on into employment. So section 3E, additional environmental impacts. And this is where the contaminants, I think, sort of fits really well, that you can describe, the work that you're doing to prevent contaminants reaching water, air and soil. So for example, if you were sort of recycling wheat electrical goods, you'd be stopping some of those heavy metals within them from entering the environment. With furniture, you might be preventing furniture and air burning and air pollution. During the workshops for this application, there was a lot of, we want to prevent fly tipping, and I think that's a really valuable additional environmental impact. And then finally, any reuse prevention or recycling. is stopping the need for the production of new things. So for example, in the example of furniture, it would be stopping the fossil energy required to make it from virgin materials. And these are all sort of valuable additional environmental impacts. Then on to section 3F, social value benefits, and this might be at a personal level for a volunteer. So it might be that it improves their diet, gives them more physical exercise, well-being, social isolation is reduced, might learn new skills, might improve their job prospects. But also it's worth thinking about how it brings communities together and the wider impact on the local population. Section 3G is all about evaluating the impact. So it's really good to use paper or SurveyMonkeys or Google Forms. We'd say don't use Google Docs because there'll be problems with GDPR and we don't want volunteers seeing each other's details. So some good ways are scales before and after. So the Office for National Statistics subjective wellbeing ratings 0 to 10 are incredibly valuable and definitely favoured by Public Health England and becoming sort of a feature of social prescribing. The one that most people know, the 5 ways to wellbeing, and again you can use a 0 to 10 scale. And you could be asking questions like, as a result of volunteering for an amount of sessions, I've been more active, given something back, noticed something, learned something new, or met new people. And the higher the score, so if you're up the 7, 8, 9, 10s, you know that the project that you've run has been really valuable. We'd say the baseline week is obviously as a volunteer starts volunteering, and then to go for an evaluation week between 6 sessions and 12 sessions seems to be a good amount to capture the sort of journeys. The other way is really just sort of open-ended qualitative questions like, what are the barriers you face, what's gone well, what's the best part of the project, what can be improved, and always give that option of any other comments so that we know that we're capturing everything that a volunteer wants to say. And finally, case studies are incredibly powerful. And we, think that social media shorts of little videos of people talking about their experiences, again, can double as a way to publicise your project, but also capture data that's really powerful. Images say a lot more, and people don't tend to read reports. So, anything that really captures things and that can be shared on social media are always powerful. And section 3H is all about project sustainability. So you want to think about the behaviour changes that you've brought about. Maybe you create free resources as a legacy. They may sit on your website, they may sit on your social media account. The little videos for evaluation, again, would be really powerful legacy of the project. And also you may have chosen to buy equipment with your Recycle for Greater Manchester grant, and that again can be used beyond the funded project. And then as we near the end of the application form, it's all about the costs and budget. So these are the costs that you can be used for the activities. So Recycle for Greater Manchester cannot contribute towards core costs, only project specific costs. So staff wages are fine, but solely for the project. It also means you can contribute some level towards the rent or hire of premises and utilities bill, which should also be acceptable, but obviously not all of it, especially if an organisation is running multiple projects. It's also important that you send us a statement of account from the previous financial year so that we know, a look at the sort of financial sustainability of your organisation. You need to provide calculations for all your budget items, and you can just again look those up, say for example through Google, and just make sure that you're getting realistic costs. Staff wages must be for project and not for core, and equipment is okay. If you are VAT registered, you're not going to be claiming all your VAT, but it'd be worth speaking to the grant manager about that. And then towards the end of the application form, and it's a declaration, it's fine for you just to write your name in there. So I'm writing here my name as a signature, and again fill in your details. Good luck with your application. If you need any support with filling in the applications, please do contact me direct, and I'm putting my email address there. So good luck, and hopefully be liaising with you soon.